Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever caught yourself staring at your weekly screen time report and felt, well, a mild sense of panic? Look, you're definitely not alone there. Today, we're exploring something absolutely essential for navigating our modern world, and that is building a cognitive operating system. If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by the constant, endless flood of news, feeds, and notifications, we are going to look at how we can actually adapt ancient educational frameworks into a modern digital trivium. This is going to help us filter out the noise and cultivate actual, real wisdom. Okay, let's dive into this.
We are drowning in information and starving for wisdom. That hits hard, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the visceral crisis of the modern mind. We have unlimited access to data right in our pockets, literally more than any medieval scholar could have ever dreamed of. But let's be honest, this hasn't exactly made us wiser. In fact, in an era where information is weaponized for immediate psychological engagement, our attention is being fragmented into profitable, reactionary little increments. Every single click, every endless scroll, every manufactured outrage, it's all monetized, leaving us totally overwhelmed and, frankly, intellectually starved.
So, to unpack all of this, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First up, the crisis of attention. Second, rebuilding the digital trivium. Third, the great classics debate. And finally, synthesizing a modern mind. Let's get started. Section 1, the crisis of attention, navigating the cognitive battlefield.
We really need to grasp the sheer urgency of how we process information today. The architects of modern attention culture, the people building these platforms, they aren't just creating fun apps. They are actively using predictive algorithms and behavioral design to weaponize our cognitive biases in real time. And the result? Shallow reading, shortened attention spans, and a whole lot of emotional impulsivity. Think about the last time you doom-scrolled for an hour and couldn't remember a single thing you read. That is not a personal feeling on your part. It is a system engineered strictly around engagement rather than truth. We so often confuse mere exposure to information with actual understanding. But true understanding, that requires struggle. It requires reflection and contradiction. And those are things an algorithm designed to keep you scrolling is rarely going to give you.
Section 2, rebuilding the digital trivium, an ancient architecture updated.
So how do we fight back? Well, to combat this crisis, we actually look backwards to the concept of the liberal arts. Now, hold on, this isn't about historical nostalgia. This is about establishing a necessary, hard infrastructure for your own cognitive sovereignty. Think of the digital trivium as a massive upgrade to your cognitive operating system. The ancient trivium was made up of grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Back then, it wasn't just about memorizing dry facts. It was a comprehensive system to train the mind to perceive the world clearly and communicate truthfully. Today, we are taking that exact same ancient framework and applying it to create modern literacies. This is what protects the mind from algorithmic persuasion and massive cognitive overload.
Let's break down the whole shebang. Modern grammar isn't just about commas and sentence structure anymore. It's fundamentally asking, how do we interpret information? It's media literacy. It's asking how to spot an AI-generated deepfake or recognize how a narrative is being framed. Then we have logic. This is literally the immune system of your mind. It asks, how do we know what is true? You use it by identifying clickbait fallacies, testing hypotheses, and, crucially, recognizing our own built-in biases. And finally, rhetoric asks, how do we communicate effectively? It is all about digital communication, engaging in collaborative dialogue, and deeply understanding how language can be used to manipulate emotion. And here is where it gets incredibly cool. This classical framework maps perfectly on today's top pedagogical models. For example, over in grammar, the act of interpreting data uses frameworks like Harvard's visible thinking routines to help us map out really complex ideas. In logic, the evaluation of truth links directly to Blue's taxonomy, moving us away from just basically recalling a headline to actively evaluating its claims. In rhetoric, that maps onto collaborative frameworks like the Harkness method, which teaches us how to persuade and engage in discussions that actually lead somewhere productive. We aren't abandoning modern critical thinking here. We're just organizing it within a timeless, proven architecture.
Now, actively practicing these frameworks naturally guides us through 4 crucial stages of thinking. Step 1 is basic information consumption. This is that passive, reactive, oh, I saw it online kind of behavior. Step 2 steps it up to analytical thinking, where we actually start identifying claims and evaluating the evidence. Step 3 is dialectical thinking. This is where we learn perspective taking and how to synthesize opposing views. And finally, step 4, the holy grail,
metacognitive wisdom. This is the ultimate goal, examining our own biases and cognitive limitations. This whole progression, it's the absolutely crucial journey from just passively reacting to online content to achieving true intellectual self-governance.
Section 3. The Great Classics Debate. A structured academic controversy.
To really flex that third level of dialectical thinking we were just talking about, we're going to use what's called a structured academic controversy. This basically means that before we can find any sort of common ground, we have to thoroughly and impartially master an opposing viewpoint. So, here is the core debate. On side A, we have the classical affirmative. They argue that the classics are the absolute ultimate cognitive shield. Up against them, we have side B, the radical pragmatic negative. They argue that relying on ancient texts is a total anachronism and that we need immediate, applied frameworks for the modern world.
It is just fascinating to see how fundamentally different their approaches are to the exact same problem. Side A makes the case that reading centuries-old texts isn't about nostalgia. It actively builds cognitive endurance. Wrestling with that complex syntax trains deep focus, which serves as a direct, necessary counterweight to the low-effort stimuli of social media, all while preserving our cultural memory. Conversely, side B pushes back by saying that a slow, contemplative reading of antiquity is basically like bringing a quill to a cyber war, because we are facing weaponized algorithms right now. Side B argues we desperately require real-time dynamic digital literacy. To them, the classics are an exclusionary retreat, and true cognitive liberation actually demands applied modern frameworks.
Section 4. Synthesizing a modern mind. Beyond the binary.
So true dialectical thinking means we have to step back, drop these polarizing either-or binary positions, and build a unified compromise. We don't just pick a side like it's a sports team. We elevate our understanding by combining the truths found in both. So we really must ask ourselves this synthesis question. If the mechanism of the classics, meaning the deep attention and intellectual endurance they build, is necessary, but the medium of the modern world, with its algorithmic chaos and fragmented data, is where the battles are actually being fought, what should a true digital trivium look like? How do we successfully merge classical depth with contemporary battlefield utility?
Well, here is the synthesized formula. We take the modern equivalents of grammar, logic, and rhetoric, and we combine them. But the absolutely crucial point here is the multiplier at the very end, metacognition. Remember, this is the deep awareness and understanding of your own thought processes. Without that multiplier, without metacognition, we're really just highly skilled consumers of information. But with it, that's when we step outside the noise. We begin governing our own minds, recognizing our own blind spots, and achieving true cognitive resilience.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The whole goal of updating the liberal arts isn't just to make us, smarter students of the world. It is to create minds that are fundamentally capable of pursuing truth. So take a hard look at your own daily routines, look at your own media diet, and ask yourself, what habits are you practicing right now that protect your mind from manipulation? Because maintaining your cognitive sovereignty and your intellectual freedom in the information age, that is an active daily practice. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep cultivating that wisdom.